Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the Secular Homeschool Revolution. I am Ashley, your host, and today we are going to take a deep dive into a topic that's really been bugging me, and I actually have been motivated today to discuss it based on a comment a fellow co op member made in our group chat or our group page. I want to talk about the whole idea of inclusivity in secular spaces because a lot of times we talk a big game about being diverse and open minded and inclusive, but is that really going on? I skimmed through a bunch of pages that in my Google search that's talking about, secular homeschool spaces that are diverse and inclusive, and the math's not mathing. The pictures aren't looking very diverse. So we're going to deep dive into that. But before we do that, let's talk life update. Before I can get into anything else, I want you guys to send me all of the good vibes, all of the good energy, because in my house, we are currently surviving our 3-year-old. I don't know if it's because he got potty trained and he's fully potty trained and he has this new confidence, but he thinks he's grown. That's the bottom line. He thinks he's grown. Anything we asked him to do today, his response was, back, you don't know me like that. Really? Or it's a no. And so then we have to talk through the no. But he really is putting us through it. And it feels different than my other kids. And I don't know if that's because I'm older or what, but he's so funny. He's so witty. He's so smart. And so he knows what he's talking about most of the time. And he does this face where he knows he says something and we're having to stop laughing at him because he knows to put it on. And I think he's like his grandfather, Sweet Bubba, in this way. And where he just, I think a lot of kids are like that too, though, where you give it attention and he just turns it up and he turns it on. And today he also mentioned about his birthday party, which he's a December birthday, so he has months and months and months to think about it. But he asked me if he could pretty please have his birthday at the thrift store. I mean, I know we go a lot, but I didn't think we went that much for him to want to have his birthday, that he would be inspired to have his birthday party there. And I asked him why, and he said, because it has lots of cool things. But I think it's because 9 times out of 10, if it's something at the thrift store, I'll usually say yes if it's in pretty good condition. So maybe that's why he thinks he wants to have his birthday party at the thrift store. So we'll keep you updated if there's a birthday party at Texas Thrift. Next, let's talk about an update because it's been about a week or so since I've posted. Let you guys know how the youth entrepreneurship pop-up went for our girls that it was hosted by our co-op for the culture. It was in downtown San Antonio at one of the most beautiful parks. It actually had a huge turnout because the park was the ending point for the Cesar Chavez March. So the kids had so much traffic. And I never, I think as parents, we can practice with our kids, talk our kids through different scenarios and situations. But when it's their time to be on, you never know. Is it going to go well? Is it not? I know for Parker, sometimes she can be hot or cold, but then I also have to remember she's motivated by money. So she set up her table, she had her bookmarks laid out, and she had a little elevator speech that she was going to practice, or not practice, that she did practice to use with customers. And she had her mini bookmarks for $1 and her larger bookmarks for $3. And she had like little yarn tassels that she handmade. Well, she killed it. She did design her bookmarks on Canva, and then I, trying to be smart, do a TikTok hack on printing bookmarks. They said to order them on Vistaprint on postcards because of the thickness of the postcards, and you could put up to 4 designs. Well, I did it. It was super cheap. It was less than $15 for 50 of them, which, would have 4 designs. But they came late. They were supposed to come like Tuesday and they didn't come until Thursday afternoon. And I ordered the wrong size. So she looked at me sideways like, I'm not reimbursing you for your bad. And I'm like, yes, I understand. So we had to scramble and figure out the next step. So we printed them out on some really nice cardstock, I think at Office Max. And then she had to come home and use the paper slicer. We did help her assemble the yarn tassels because her order arrived late and we didn't, so we were crunched for time. But she had made a pretty good amount. But my Aunt Dell came through for clutch and made this like contraption out of like some wire posts where you could just knock out some tassels pretty quickly. So it was a much faster process than she was originally doing. I think all in all, she took over 70 bookmarks to the pop up. And so, like I was saying, she can be hot or cold, but she's money motivated. So, whenever she had customers, she did her elevator speech. She, after her first few customers, she got more confident. But what I'm the most proud of is that when she didn't have customers at her table, she went after them. We were at a park, and the way the tables were set up, you could go down like this like walkway, and so she'd approach people and say, "Hey, do you like to read books?" And if they said yes, she would say, "Great, then you should come check out the bookmarks at my table that I designed. I think you'd be really interested in them." And so a lot of customers followed her to their table, and she got so many tips just because they were really proud of her confidence. And then when the people said no, she would say, "Oh, you should read, or you should keep up. You should try to read more. Maybe you'll find the just right story for you." And so she offered them words of encouragement. And I was really proud of her for one reason, because I wasn't over there with her the whole time. I don't know if it's because I make her nervous or I get on her nerves. I think it's a little bit of both. So I was giving her her space. So she was predominantly at the table by herself. My mom was sitting like a little bit far off to the side, but she was handling it on her own. And just to see her take charge like that, I was just proud. But most importantly, she was really proud of herself. So go, Parker. Now, my Kari, she's 7. She did polymer clay earrings that were clip-ons, and she had some really cute designs. She did watch a lot of videos on YouTube. We rented some library books. She went to the polymer class at the rec center that our city was offering free classes, so that gave her some inspiration. And at first, she was a little nervous too. But my Aunt Dell gave her a pep talk and told her she could do this. And so, as more customers came, she was more confident. And she also, both of them sold out of their products. And so, Sakari 7, I can't imagine, or yeah, I can't even dream of how confident she'll be if she keeps doing these pop ups by the time she's 10, 11 years old. And I think the purpose of these pop ups, right, is to at least for them to take the class with our co-op, is to let them know that owning their own business is a realistic possibility. And I think with anything, if you give your kids access to opportunity, it could spark some interest. You never know where it's going to take them. But I do think for the most part, for our entire co-op of kids who participated, it was overall a huge success. And when we did the debrief, most of the kids just talked about how confident they were, how proud of themselves they were, and they even were able to pinpoint their grows and glows. And so overall, it was a really good experience. I think me, Jen, and Kia were just excited for how everything turned out. So that was the update with our pop-up. So for my podcast episode, I gained 2 new followers, so I'm at 53 followers. And as far as my total plays for all my episodes, I'm at 395. So that's really good news. I'm almost to 400. I always appreciate any growth, any new listeners. My most favorite or most listened to episode is the homeschooling schedule. I guess people like to see or hear how other people are scheduling their lives. And I do think to figure out your own rhythm, it's going to take a lot of pivoting to see what's going to work for your family, especially if you have multiple kids. If you haven't listened to it, go check it out. It is literally called Homeschool Schedule, for the name of the episode. Right, so let's get into our topic of the day. So, the comment that inspired me to do this episode was a parent stating they were thankful for the space because their kid feels safe, included, and celebrated. And then a couple of other parents responded that they feel the same way and they're glad they found the community. And as a co founder of the community, that meant so much because this is what we set out to do. And I'm sure my co founders, Jen and Kia, feel the same way. And I need to figure out how we can all do an episode together. But we have been very intentional on curating the space so that it is secular, diverse, and inclusive. When I get on Google and I search secular homeschool communities that are diverse and inclusive, I often get some results, right? And I click on a link or I'll click on a social media page, and I often find that one group is dominating the community. And sometimes I will go look to see if they have blog posts and or social media pages just to show their previous activities. And I really did this a lot at the beginning when we were trying to figure out, our mission statement, our vision statement. We were doing the nonprofit paperwork, so I was looking for inspiration. But what I came to realize is just because you say you are a diverse community doesn't mean you are a diverse community. And what's even more concerning for me is when these spaces attract white secular people who are drawn to the idea of diversity and inclusion, but actually fall short on the action. I feel like they're all about the buzzwords and they miss the memo on what it truly means to celebrate diversity in a meaningful way. And I think that whenever you're creating a secular, diverse, and inclusive community, or you're trying to be a part of a community like that, you definitely should be on a journey of doing anti-racist work. And I fully agree that we all have our own biases, and our kids are going to pick up on that. But the thing is, the first step is to actually acknowledge those so you can get started on your journey. And when you actively engage in anti-racist work, you're actually making some progress. Because it's not enough to just sit back and claim, well, I'm not racist. We have to actively dismantle the systems of oppression that perpetuate racism both within ourselves and within our communities. And if you're not doing the work, then you are actively creating a harmful environment for those who are seeking this space as a safe haven for themselves or for their kids. And I think another conversation that is overlooked in diverse secular communities is ableism and disabilities. I think it's important to be mindful of the different needs and challenges that people with disabilities face and to be mindful of your interactions. It's like little things, right? Especially if you're a community leader, is like making sure you're providing alternative formats of information. I know in our co-op registration, we do ask if there's any assistance that may be needed to better support their kid, to make this a more enjoyable experience. And so we're always trying to be mindful. I know my kid is visually impaired, so she's taking a fashion design class. I let the mom know who's leading it until my kid takes her lamp because, she doesn't shy away from challenges. And I'm a little nervous, with the needle, but she's going for it. And I'm so happy that some the other parents in the room are so supportive and encouraging. But again, she has an accommodation of using an extra bright light that she carries with her so that she can get it done. Um, and so again, those parents who are supporting my kid are celebrating her, and they're aware of her disability, and my kid feels safe. Like, she doesn't need me to hover over her, because if I'm not there, because I do have, two other kids in the building, she can feel safe and trust that the other adults genuinely care about her and her experience in that class. So if you notice ableism cropping up in your community, don't be afraid to speak up. I mean, you can gently correct someone's language, you can advocate for better accommodations. I believe every action counts in creating a more inclusive environment, because we always have to keep learning, we have to keep listening, and we have to continue to lift each other up so that we can all move forward and do the work at creating a more accessible and inclusive environment, especially for our kids. Mm-hmm. So, what can we do about it? First off, we have to acknowledge the problem. We need to confront the fact that many of our secular spaces lack true diversity, and they fail to create a safe environment for everyone. And it's time we stop sugarcoating and start taking real action. This also means that we have to actively seek out diverse voices and perspectives, amplify marginalized voices, and challenge the status quo when we see discrimination or exclusion. But it doesn't stop there. We have to also engage in anti racist work. Anti racist work involves actively dismantling the systems of racism and oppression that exist within our communities. And it means we have to examine our own biases and privileges and take concrete steps to address them. This might involve attending a workshop or some trainings, reading books by BIPOC authors, or supporting organizations that work towards racial justice. But I think most importantly, anti racist work means willing to have uncomfortable conversations about race and racism. It means listening to the experiences of people of color and being open to learning and growing from those conversations. And ultimately, when you do anti racist work, you have to know that it's an ongoing process, and that it requires a lot of commitment, humility, and a willingness to do the hard work of challenging ourselves and our communities to do better. But by taking these steps, we are moving closer towards the goal, right, of creating a truly inclusive anti-racist space where everyone feels safe, respected, and valued. Look, we can't change the past, but we can help shape the future. And it's time for secular communities to put their money where their mouth is and truly commit to creating spaces that are diverse, inclusive, and most importantly, safe for all. This means more than just lip service to the ideals of diversity and inclusion. It means taking actual steps to make those ideals a reality. And we can start by actively recruiting and elevating voices from marginalized communities, whether it's through leadership positions, speaking opportunities, or simply making sure that everyone's voice is heard and valued. It also means creating policies and procedures that prioritize inclusivity and equity, and holding ourselves and others accountable when those standards are not met. But it's not just what happens within our own communities, it's about the bigger picture. This means us using our platform and resources to advocate for systemic change. So, whether it's by supporting legislation that promotes equality and justice, but by using influence to challenge harmful stereotypes and narratives. And ultimately, when we're creating diverse, inclusive, and safe spaces, it is a collective effort. One person cannot uphold the values for a whole community. It requires the commitment and dedication of every member in the community. But I think the rewards will be worth it. And when we come together and work towards a common goal, we can build a future where everyone feels welcome, valued, and empowered to be their authentic selves. And one more thing, if a marginalized person tells you that your words or actions are harmful or have been harmful, do not think this is your opportunity to play victim or take it as an attack. Instead, take a moment to stop, listen, breathe, and just really digest what is being said, because it's important to recognize that this could be an opportunity for growth. And yes, it's going to be uncomfortable. The conversation's going to be hard to have. But in these moments of discomfort, that's when real change can happen. And I know in this society, we like to save ourselves from discomfort. We like to automatically go with what's easier or more comfortable. But when we acknowledge the perspectives of marginalized voices and are open to learning from their experiences, we all are going to become better allies and create a more inclusive world. So we need to embrace these opportunities for growth, even when they're tough. And let's commit to being active listeners, empathetic learners, and allies in the fight against injustice, because together we are going to be the change and create a brighter, more equitable future for everyone, most importantly, our kids. That's a wrap for today's episode. Thank you for tuning in to the Secular Homeschool Revolution with me, Ashley, your host. And as we close out this episode, let's remember that words alone won't bring about the change we seek. It's not enough to just talk the talk. We got to walk the walk too. So until next time, let's stay committed to our ideals of diversity, inclusion, and equity. Let's actively work to dismantle the barriers that hold people back, challenge the systems of oppression that perpetuate inequality, and strive to create a world where everyone has the opportunity to thrive. And a great place to start is your secular, inclusive, diverse homeschool community. So let's stay real, let's stay revolutionary, and let's keep pushing forward together. See you next time.